Willie D. Live.
How did you meet R. Kelly?
Well, I used to see him perform in the subways in Chicago. He was a street performer.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just see him. It wasn't about meeting him. It wasn't until years later, of course, with George's and as popular as our store was, he would come and do in-stores with his records. And at one point when I married my wife, Regina Daniels, this was in 93. And my wife used to be Whitney Houston's publicist. So we have kind of some deep roots there. And something had happened, and Barry Hankerson, R. Kelly's manager, called me and said, "Hey, George, your wife is a publicist, and we just fired ours, and they were in Atlanta, and they wanted to hire a publicist." So me and Regina hopped on the plane and went to Atlanta. That's how my wife became his publicist at that time. This is like 1994, maybe 95. And so our relationship was built at that point.
So when you started appearing in the videos,
Mm-hmm.
and you always seem to be having fun, boy, you
I
got
did.
smile, boy, that smile, boy, you like
That's always been my weapon.
yeah, yeah.
Look, because of the way I was sent around, see, because I was talking to one of my nephews on the way here, and see, I don't have any lifelong friends, okay? The way I was shifted around, my mother shipped me off from New York
Okay.
to Texas, saved my grandmother. She got ill. I wound up living with a whole bunch of different aunts and uncles.
Mm-hmm.
Then I wound up in Philadelphia with an uncle, my mother's youngest brother. I was scared shitless of him because he beat your ass. And out of nowhere, my brother, who was in medical school at the time to become a dentist, he called me from Chicago and said, "Hey, you want to come live with me in Chicago?" I said, "Yeah." And I was starting 8th grade by then. So I go to Chicago. And my brother took care of me. He was married, had one child, had 2 more children by the time he graduated dental school in 1962. We went to the graduation, 3,000 medical school graduates, University of Illinois Medical School, and 6 were black, and 1 was my brother. And see, so those stories are about the examples that I saw and what it takes to achieve. So no matter what you do, you can achieve at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you and R. Kelly fall out?
Well, I mean, it was a process. I'm not gonna say we fell out. We just went our separate ways. Let's put it like that.
Because y'all was tight, man.
there was
y'all
no-
was super tight.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Y'all families were tight.
Yeah,
right?
We were close. I mean, it got to
Yeah.
the point. It's like when 9/11 hit, and Rob had just gone to Europe to do a tour, and then 9/11 hit. He was over in Europe. He was the only American artist performing in Europe at the time. And so, my wife and I, we were home, and I get a call from the president of Jive Records, and he said, "Hey, George," which I was surprised to get a call from him. He said, "Look, I'm calling, cut to the chase. I need you, we need you to do us a favor." I said, "What?" "Rob wants to come home, but we need to keep him in Europe because he's the only artist that represents America that's touring in Europe." I said, "Yeah, and what do you want me to do?" They said, "Well, everybody knows you have a pretty strong influence on him, and we need someone to go convince him to stay." And so I agreed. I said, "Okay." My wife and I, we catch a plane. This is maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks right after 9/11. We take a plane. We were literally the only people on the plane because nobody was flying back then. We get to Dusseldorf, Germany, and we get to the hotel, and the crew is hanging around the lobby and stuff, and they're surprised to see us. And Rob comes in, and he's just excited. We went and talked to him, what have you. He wanted to know, he said, "Man, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I was told that you wanted to come home, and you need to stay here and represent the country." And so we kicked it around a little bit, and he said, "Okay, I'll do it under one condition." I said, "Okay." He said, "You got to stay here with me and go on the tour." And that was, for me, it was like going back to grammar school, if you will, because we were on tour buses, 6 tours, traveling all over Europe and seeing the things that I read about in books, the White Cliffs of Dover and so on and so forth. And so that was an experience. And we even got closer then behind that type of traveling.
Yeah.
And so as time had gone on, and then when the issues came out about his private shenanigans, if you will, which I wasn't aware of, but he was so shrewd and smart at separating all of those things. I mean, there's a guy that, that had that yellow hair that was in the White House. This similar methods of keeping things separate with, your right hand doesn't know what your left hand's doing. And he was good at that. And when I became aware of all of those things, and I started going out on the road with him at home, and I was like policing stuff. We get on two of us, and girls would come out there, and I was checking IDs. And some of his other people in the crew would say, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "Man, he's going through all of this mess. Let's protect it." And I wouldn't letting these young girls get on the bus and so on and so forth. And some that way I got moved out of the way of that responsibility that I took on by myself. And one thing led to another, and it just got bad. And I felt that, I could be better served taking care of my own business at George's Music Room.
Mm. Yeah, I've been around R. Kelly a number of times, and I've never seen any like inappropriate behavior with young girls. No, I mean not even remotely.
Exactly.
It wasn't even a situation where these girls even look at all like close to looking underage. I never seen any of that type of stuff around him. Yeah,
he knew how to hide it. He was a whiz at it. I mean, these are things I heard about later, but he used to have girls hidden around the studio, different rooms, and so on and so forth. And, he was an unscrupulous character, man. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. But, he managed to keep everything in their positions, and folks didn't know.
How do you feel about what he's going through right now as far as him being incarcerated and losing his position in his career right now, and how what his legacy is shaping up to look like?
Well, when the old saying, you make your bed, you got to sleep in it. And so I'm disappointed. His music is some of the greatest music in the world, but he could have been as big as any of these other artists are today with helping other careers. And he was too selfish to even do that. He wrote songs for folks and what have you, but how great he could have been. And so, I don't feel bad. I mean, like I said, you make your bed, you got to sleep in it.
Mm.